As we have seen, no type declarations are necessary, and variables are essentially just untyped name bindings to objects. As such, they can be rebound or reassigned as often as necessary, even to objects of different types. But when we bind a name to an object, where is that binding stored? To answer that question, we must look at scopes and scoping rules in Python. There are 4 main types of scope in Python arranged in a hierarchy. Each scope is a context in which names are stored and in which they can be looked up. The 4 scopes, from narrowest to broadest, are local, those names defined inside the current function; enclosing, those names defined inside any and all enclosing functions. This scope isn't important for the contents of this Python Fundamentals course. Global, those names defined at the top level of a module. Each module brings with it a new global scope. And finally, built-in, those names built into the Python language through the special built-ins module. Together, these scopes comprise the LEGB rule. Names are looked up in the narrowest relevant context. It's important to note that scopes in Python do not correspond to the source code blocks as demarcated by indentation. For loops, with blocks, and the like do not introduce new nested scopes. Consider our words.py module. It contains the following global names: main, bound by the def main statement; sys, bound when sys is imported; double underscore name, provided by the Python runtime; URL open, bound from the URLlib request module; fetch words, bound by the def fetch words statement; and print items, bound by the def print items statement. Module scope name bindings are typically introduced by import statements and function or class definitions. It is possible to use other objects at module scope, and this is typically used for constants, although it can be used for variables. Within the fetch words function, we have the 6 local names: word, bound by the inner for loop; line words, bound by assignment; line, bound by the outer for loop; story words, bound by assignment; URL, bound by the formal function argument; and story, bound by the with statement. Each of these is brought into existence at first use and continues to live within the function scope until the function completes, at which point the references will be destroyed. Very occasionally, we need to rebind a global name, at module scope, from within a function. Consider the following simple module. If we save this module in scopes.py, we can import it into the REPL for experimentation. When showCount is called, Python looks up the count name in the local namespace, L, doesn't find it, so looks in the next most outer namespace, in this case the global module namespace, G, where it finds the name count and prints the referred to object. Now we call setCount with a new value, and call showCount again. You might be surprised that showCount displays 0 after the call to setCount, so let's work through what's happening. When we call setCount, the assignment count equals C binds the object referred to by the formal argument C to a new name, count, in the innermost namespace context, which is the scope of the current function. No lookup is performed for the global count at module scope. We have created a new variable which shadows, and thereby prevents access to, the global of the same name. To avoid this situation, we need to instruct Python to consider use of the count name in the setCount function to resolve to the count in the module namespace. We can do this by using the global keyword. Let's modify setCount to do so. Quit and restart the Python interpreter and exercise our revised module, which now demonstrates the required behavior.